All right, our guts are full of Chick-fil-A. Our mouths are full of praise. Our minds are full of Christ.
And we had a graphic design competition between.
And my wallet
Really?
is full of cash.
She just launches to the floor of the studio.
Do you know why you did that?
Something just took over.
It's like financial Tourette's. Who needs it?
Yeah, I'm a good guy.
It's for all the ladies.
He's tipping
out
the
there,
camera guy.
Just giving him some confidence in his.
Totally, because there's totally normal reasons for single guys to carry cash in 2024. Definitely isn't any of the bad reasons. It's because they want to use the cash to buy Bibles
and Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Tip well.
We had a, I think it was 1 or 2 episodes ago, somebody mentioned the Polish Academy of Scientists.
Scientisms.
Yeah. Christian Scientology. And we thought it was a cool name for something, so we had a graphic design competition.
Mm-hmm.
Who won?
I did.
And I won.
You definitely didn't win.
It was awesome.
No.
So why are you saying you won?
He opened up PowerPoint and just got some clip arts.
No, that's not even what happened.
I do like some of the Gen Z design stuff that's like intentionally bad, and I don't mean that pejoratively. They're doing it on purpose. I really like it. They're using like the old Microsoft word art on stuff.
Oh yeah.
And overcrowding stuff on purpose. I actually think it looks really cool.
Yes.
I will say this, then it's a trend. And so if that's according to that trend, you probably hit that trend on the nose. But it's not objectively good graphic design.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's not objectively good. I think it can be subjectively good.
Everything is subjectively good.
No, that's not true.
That's not
Many things are subjectively bad.
On this episode.
But to the right person.
The clash of the generations.
That's one of the least true statements I've ever heard said into a microphone. Everything is subjectively good. Okay, great. Let's go down the list. Joseph Stalin. Is he subjectively good?
According to his mother.
To the man in the mirror, he was. Yeah.
Can you, in post, can we not cut what he said out? Just beep it out? Because that's how offensive
I've been censored too much.
Beep. just like a beep out.
Let's get into the Bible.
That was fun.
That's his classic. When he doesn't like the subjects he's brought up, he's like, well, let's dig in.
The Bible as a life preserver.
Let's dig in, guys.
By Logan, Man Without a Nation Lewis.
If you ever start a conversation you want to get out of, just say like, hey, did you see what Donald Trump just tweeted? Because there's always something. And it's always someone will think of something. It'll be an angle out.
It's on Truth Social, actually. He doesn't tweet, but you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The thing I want more of in my social networks is to be 100% sure that they're owned by a person who loves America. Okay. Where do we leave off? Chap 33?
Yep.
Chappy.
Here's a meme someone sent in making fun of your dad, Nick.
All right.
I don't even like fully. I don't get the format. I've never seen this format.
This is getting close to bullying my dad.
No, first of all, you need to understand his dad. He's like the Kanye West of this Bible study. He just loves being in the headlines. And the first few times someone made a meme making fun of him, I ran it by him and said, "Are you okay if I show this to the people?" He loves it.
Yeah.
He's made memes about himself.
That's why I asked if he made this.
It might have been from him, honestly. But the other thing,
they're keeping him awake at night. I get the meme.
The other thing you got to understand about Nick's dad at the Bible study, if you're watching from home, we do this Bible study at our church here in Gilbert, Arizona, is that he handwrites questions in advance that are 10 times more difficult than any other questions that are asked. So like other people are asking like real questions. Like there was this guy that was
seeking to understand.
They were like, he's like, I don't understand justification. Is that different than salvation? I was like, oh, heck yeah, let's talk about that. Brad is like, what does this specific word mean in Hebrew in this random part of this passage? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
You should bring a rabbi next time.
Can you imagine?
A rabbi and just a regular Greek person.
And then here's the meme that won. Dan, he won again. That guy's a meme lord.
The city is the cauldron. We are the meat. That's
I'm gonna
great.
have to
That
meet
is
Dan.
good.
Dan's
Yeah.
mom came up to me at church, and she was like, "Hey, I'm the meme lord's mom."
Wow.
And I was like, "That's a great intro. I really want to talk to you now. It's not that I didn't, but
Right.
now like forget everything else."
There's
Yeah.
like, that's like right below Mother of Dragons. She's like the Daenerys Targaryen of memes.
And then for the next one, I sent out this template, and I wanted people to use I love the dancing Bill Hader
Okay,
memes.
cool.
They're so fun. Do you want to make some memes as a part of this?
We'll see what I can do.
I think that should be a part of what he contributes.
I like
Some
it.
little images.
Like,
yeah.
she contributes theological excellence and prayer. He contributes insight. And Logan, I think he needs another thing
Yeah.
for the pod.
Yeah, you're a meme DJ.
Yeah, meme DJ.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Have you guys seen those like little fans that spin and then it's like a screen and they can put like a holographic image up?
Yep.
Have you guys seen those?
Hold that up.
We should get Logan one of those and he can make memes and put them up there.
And if
be
you don't
cool.
like it, he has to put his finger in it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember those handheld fans that
Yes,
kids had
it
at
always
camp?
would like
Totally.
smack your face.
It was like
Mystery.
5
your
minutes.
hair.
It was like 5 minutes on the bus to camp until a kid was putting it in another kid's face and cutting his face open.
Yeah, I got like a, what do they call it? Like a gift bag full with like a bunch of stuff.
Swag bag.
Swag bag, yeah,
Swag
swag
bag.
swag bag if you're from certain parts of the country.
That's so
Swag
nice.
Swag,
bag.
it's an E.
Swag bag.
Yeah,
And
bake.
in that was one of those fans, but also was one of those finger puzzle things.
Oh no.
Yeah, and a kid sitting on the bus next to me got his finger stuck. Like,
Yeah.
and then we went in a full on panic because he couldn't get him out. And it was all the drama in our
in
seating section.
the Chinese finger trap?
Yeah.
Chinese
Yes.
finger trap. That's
Those
what it
things
is,
were
yeah.
great.
Yeah, well, he just had no concept. He just kept trying to pull harder, which of course locks it in, and then he
Yep.
started panicking.
Yep.
And somebody like cut through it, and it was fine.
Figuring out how to entertain yourselves with novelty items is so good.
Yes.
For your brain and development.
In 1990,
Totally.
also before phones distracted us and brain rot was a thing.
I was like, hey, Mom and Dad, the batteries on my Walkman are dead. I can't listen to Adventures in Odyssey or this Jesus Freak
Adventures in
cassette
Odyssey.
anymore. Adventures in Odyssey is lit.
yes,
and
that
if
made
anyone-
Don't
every.
get those?
If anyone ever spoke against it, I would take personal offense. And I don't believe in taking personal
It made
offense.
every road trip go by so
That
fast.
and
They
McGee
did.
and Me. Do you remember
Yes,
McGee
I remember
and Me?
McGee
I haven't
and Me.
thought about that.
McGee and Me was
I mean, it was
good. McGee and Me
good.
was good. The animation was amazing in
Yes.
McGee and Me. Adventures in Odyssey was
Oh.
god tier. I don't know who was writing that.
I'm fighting that.
I don't know if it was good after like the year 1998. I'm just saying the stuff that was around when I was a kid was so amazing.
Yeah.
That
I learned
was-
so much Bible from those.
Yeah.
I should write Adventures in Odyssey fan fiction.
Ooh.
I mean,
I'd listen.
it kind of makes me
I'd
want to
have my
revisit.
kids listen.
Yeah, I just
They're
remember
homeschoolers,
my
they're
sisters and
gonna-
I would be like, this trip is 4.5 episodes long.
Yeah.
Like we didn't use minutes or hours. We measured road trips in terms of Adventures in Odyssey episodes.
I remember my
Tapes.
my mom got a van, an Oldsmobile Silhouette that didn't have a tape deck in it, and I
Oh,
was devastated.
Yeah, into the world.
Because we had put all of our money into this tape collection. We had
Yeah.
all these tapes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they were amazing. Remember Darkness Before Dawn, the one that was like a full story?
I
that was
do.
like all epic. It was like so scary.
Okay. Did your parents have you watch feature films for families? Like
No.
the Buttercream Gang or anything?
Yes.
Oh, Buttercream Gang was lit.
Yeah.
Logan's too. Just drinking his spiced
You
Coke.
had to know this was like early 90s Christian core.
Yeah.
Um,
Buttercream Gang.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
movies. Obviously, you can't trust anything coming out of
Nothing.
Hollywood. So there was like its
Right.
own Christian Hollywood, which was Colorado Springs.
Oh.
And,
Yeah, but I'm going to defend them.
and
I
they
don't.
made Buttercream, but they were good movies.
That's
they were
exactly
actually,
what I was gonna
They
say.
drew me in as a kid. I liked them. I didn't know any better.
Here's what I'll say. If people are like, Hollywood's bad, that's fine. I don't care what you think. Obey your own conviction and don't change your conviction for someone else if that's what you think. That's what the Bible teaches. And if you want to create art as a response from that, good for you.
Yeah.
Way to not complain and like actually contribute something.
Right.
Do what those people did, which is that they gave a full effort and made an actually really cool movie that actually had a really good message. There was this kid that was like, left town to go live with his other family, and then he came back and he had joined a gang in the time, and so he was like this like broken, troubled kid, and all of his friends were trying to befriend him, and he kept pushing them away, and so they had to figure out how to love this person that was hating them. That was the premise of the movie, and then it climaxes in this scene where he's tearing apart the local grocery store, and they're trying to stop him, and honestly, the acting's pretty good.
I mean, I have no idea if they were because it's been 30 years since I watched them, but they were absolutely entertaining.
Can you react to it on your YouTube channel?
Oh, I would love that.
Oh yeah, reaction.
You should do a
videos.
Christian movie series.
I've wanted to
that would require you to watch Christian movies. And they kind of stopped after this.
I don't want to do a thing where I make fun of things where people were trying.
That's fair.
I don't want to do that. I'll do that with my friends without a microphone. But what I have actually thought is I've thought about doing a series called Christian Art That Does Not Suck. And it's only like good things. That's it. So it's like a positive contribution to the thing.
And the Christian video game.
The Christian video games I want to do for sure.
Bible Man.
Bible Man. Dude, there's a King James version Game Boy regular cartridge. You can just read the King James Bible on your Game Boy with no backlight.
Cool.
That's like the opposite of the joke you made last episode about cutting a hole in your Bible and putting your Game Boy in it.
It's cutting the Game Boy and putting the Bible in it.
That's an inverse. It's like,
you
yo, I
imagine
hacked this cartridge.
Just picture like the kid from like a super conservative 1990s family, and they open a Game Boy on Christmas, and this kid is crying. His name's Kyle. He's 10, and he's just like, I never ever thought. My parents always told me video games were from Satan. I never ever thought. And then he's thinking, what game am I going to get? Because there's no game in the Game Boy box, and so he's just thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. So he's like, is it Pokemon? Is it Super Mario Land 2, Land of 6 Golden Coins? Is it Paperboy? And he opens it up, and it's the King James version of the Bible.
That's so sad. You know that happened, though.
It did.
What's sad about that is that happened
Absolutely.
over and over again.
What's wrong? Now you can read it everywhere you go.
Totally.
Even in the dark.
And then therapists everywhere are like, we're going to be able to make some money off this kid.
And then that kid grew up to invent the Bible app.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He just immediately goes on, finds every time the King James version says the word ass to like upset his parents.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Don't blame me. It's not a curse word if you're reading the KJV. There's a couple other ones in there too that I won't even say. All right, why don't we jump in? This is Ezekiel and the sword and the trumpet. Here we are moving into a new section. So the section we just finished was the judgment on the nations to manifest the glory of God. Now, I would say that the way this next section feels is it's prep for the end. So like remember in like Lost season 6 where they didn't tie up any of the loose ends? This is the opposite of that. They actually are explaining things.
The most upsetting ending of a series that ever was.
Dude, why were there polar bears? Just tell me. I don't even care if it makes sense. Where's Walt?
It was awful.
Where's Walt? Just tell me. It's okay. I know he's like 10 years older because of the series and the writer's strike and stuff. Just tell me. It's okay.
So hold on a second. I'm somebody. This is gonna blow your minds. I watched like the first 3 seasons and then stopped.
That was the right call.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
I now
In
know that.
hindsight, yes.
Yeah, I gambled. But so you mean to tell me like the first episode when there's polar bears charging through the jungle, they never explain that?
They never explained that.
That was the thing
Walt,
that kept me in as long as I did because I'm waiting for the polar bear.
They don't really explain the smoke monster really.
No.
I think the explanation of the others is fine, albeit not as satisfying, but that's okay. You can write whatever you want. And then when Walt leaves the island and it's like the biggest deal, it never gets explained.
How dare they?
Yeah, it's really too bad.
It was the worst series ending.
The guy said in an interview that he wrote a sci-fi show that he assumed was going to get canceled. So he actually assumed he was never going to have to answer any of the questions. Which actually...
That's real?
Yeah, he said that in an interview. He was like, the budget was way too big. I just assumed we were getting canceled. Like, throw polar bears on there. This is crazy. There's a smoke monster. Yeah, get that in the mix.
And so at no point when the show started taking off over those first few years, did he
like,
go,
crap,
now I'm making money. I should probably finish this.
Probably conclude this.
Wow.
So where we're going here is the opposite of that, which is these are a sequence of prophetic words. So here we're looking at the prophetic word on prophets and leaders. And all of this is leading us to the glory of the Lord restored in Israel. Because God chose a people, set his glory on them, had them build a tabernacle, brought his glory to the tabernacle, gave them a nation, had them build a temple, put his glory in the temple. These are all things that happen in the Old Testament. Then they rebel against him. According to the Mosaic covenant, they disobey. Now the glory is left. We saw that at the beginning. And then at the end, the glory returns. That's the thing that ties the book together. Let's look at chapter 33. The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them. So like you pointed out a minute ago off camera, Logan, this really does return to kind of the style of the early chapters. It's kind of like chapter 14 or chapter 3. Logan, could you pick up there at the middle of verse 2 and read through verse 6?
Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against a land, and the people of the land choose one of their men and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land and blows the trumpet to warn the people, then if anyone hears the trumpet but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head. Since they heard the sound of the trumpet but did not heed the warning, their blood will be on their own head. If they had heeded the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin. But I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood.
Lamar Cooper says that chapter 33 is a turning point in the book of Ezekiel. And he says that the theme of Ezekiel's role as watchman, effectively, he says, comes back. Only 2 dated prophecies are in chapters 33 through 48, says Lamar Cooper, which is unique for the book.
I'm going to ask about that.
Ezekiel's ministry and messages turned to a theme of hope and restoration. It's for some reason Ezekiel chose not to date some of them, which is interesting. I don't really fully understand why that is, because it's a common theme before that. A watchman, what he was referencing there, is a person who like stood on the top of a city and watched and made sure if someone was going to attack the city. He's like the city alarm system of the middle of the night for like a city. And if you were like a nighthawk, it'd be a pretty good job. Isaiah 21 references it. It says, go set a watchman. Let him announce what he sees. Psalm 127 says, unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain, which is a pretty cool passage about God. So you see what he's saying here. He's saying the watchman has the trumpet. The trumpet is for the warning. If the watchman sees something and doesn't blow the trumpet, you had one job.
Yeah.
Right? So it's effectively, it's very similar to what was happening in Ezekiel, or at the beginning of Ezekiel, where God's like, okay, if I give you a word and you don't give it to them, then you actually are part of the punishment. Mm-hmm. If I give you a word and they listen, fantastic. If I give you a word and they don't listen, you're chill. You do your job. You are the speaker of the word, right? That's what the watchman is with the trumpet. And as long as the watchman sounds the trumpet, which it really should just say shofar, because that's actually what it is. That's actually what it says in Hebrew. I don't know why they change things like that to like an English analog, because it's not a trumpet. When I read it, I'm picturing like a gold trumpet. It's not. It's a ram's horn. It's a shofar. So you, son of man, I've made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you shall give them warning for me. Augustine said, do you see how dangerous it is to keep silent? Caesarius of Arles said, mine is the burden that you just heard about when the prophet Ezekiel was read. That's a pretty wild statement. So that church father is saying, when God said Ezekiel was a watchman, he viewed himself as having the same responsibility as a person communicating
it's like
truth.
That Jeremiah verse, I think it's like 20 verse 9, his word is a fire in my bones. I am weary of holding it in.
Yes.
Indeed, I cannot.
Yes.
It's like that same
it's
fervor.
shut up. It's shut up within my bones. That's another one you could read King James Version, so you could say shut up, because you weren't allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Wait, that's in the King James? Shut up.
His fire
There's a
is
fire.
shut up.
Shut up in my bones.
Shut up.
Ah, I see.
Gregory of Nazianzus said, "How are we affected by Ezekiel, the beholder and expositor of the mighty mysteries and visions, by his injunction to the watchman not to keep silence concerning vice, and the sword impending over it?" Theodoret of Seir said, "These words teach that it's God who gives peace to people because of goodness and allows wars to happen because of the wickedness of people who bring disaster on themselves." I don't know about you guys. I include a lot of church father quotes in my Bible studies because to me, it really comforts me to read passages and feel like saints have been reading the same passage for a long time. And it helps me feel like I don't need to figure this out. It's already been figured out. I don't need to figure out a new explanation. I can just read and study and the Holy Spirit can lead me. And I also like we are in a line with these people, right? That we are studying the same book that they were studying, which not a ton of people have studied. Verse 8, "If I say to the wicked, O wicked one, you shall surely die, and you don't speak to warn the wicked to turn from his way, the wicked person shall die in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at your hand." That's what we were talking about before. But if you warn the wicked to turn away from his way, and he doesn't turn from his way, that person shall die in his iniquity, but you will have delivered your soul. So I think that's obvious. That's the prophet's job. Son of man, you can underline that in red in your Bible if you're studying at home. If you got some colored pencils or a Pen Tech Bible pen like I use, if you are an absolute dork like me, "Thus you have said, surely our transgressions and sins are upon us, and we rot away from them. How then can we live?" Now, remember this when we get to chapter 37. "Say to them, as I live, declares the Lord, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live." Listen to that. Think about what that says about the nature and character of God.
Yeah.
Think about what that says about judgment warnings and how God views them. This is what I've been trying to say, and I don't always feel like I make it clear enough, but this verse does a better job. God is announcing judgment as an opportunity for mercy. "Then they will know that I am the Lord," he has said, what seemingly hundreds of times. "Turn back," that's repent. "Turn back from your evil ways. Why will you die, O house of Israel?" It's actually quoting chapter 18, verse 31, word for word. It's the exact same content. And this is the trumpet sound. The text is talking about the trumpet sound is the announcing of the judgment of God, because God desires that the wicked have another opportunity to turn, to change their ways, and to live. Simeon, the new theologian, commented on this in the 10th century. He was a compassionate spiritual leader known for his strict rule. It said in a commentary, he believed that the divine light could be perceived and received through the practice of mental prayer. So now that we've offended the Baptists watching, we can read his quote. "So it's necessary for you, the shepherd of Christ's sheep, to acquire every virtue of body and spirit. You're the head of the body of the church of Israel that's under your rule, so that the brothers may look to you as a good pattern and imprint upon themselves those excellent and royal traits of character. May your trumpet never cease to resound. It should warn some of the sword that comes on the disobedient, so that even if they ignore you, you may save your soul from the terrible wrath of God. And you, son of man," verse 12, "say to your people, the righteousness of the righteous shall not deliver him when he transgresses. And as for the wickedness of the wicked, he shall not fall by it when he turns from his wickedness, and the righteous shall not be able to live by his righteousness when he sins." I mean, does that not sound like a verse from the Apostle Paul? It sounds like something in Romans.
Yep.
Though I say to the righteous that he shall surely live, yet if he trusts in his righteousness and does injustice, none of his righteous deeds shall be remembered. That sounds like the Apostle Paul too. We do righteous deeds, but we don't trust in them. We trust in the righteousness of Christ. Again, though I say to the wicked, you shall surely die. Yet if he turns from his sin and does what is just and right, if the wicked restores the pledge, gives back what he's taken by robbery, and walks in the statutes of life, not doing injustice, he shall surely live. He shall not die. None of the sins that he's committed shall be remembered against him. He's done what is just and right. He shall surely live. It's a beautiful paragraph, and righteousness as a means of getting to God does not work, like it says in the beginning. We don't trust in our own righteousness, but wickedness reveals the path that we are on, and the restorative and restituting acts that he talks about are not the reason that they're saved. They are the proof that they have been saved. Yet your people say, the way of the Lord is not just, when it's their own way that's not just. So here he's kind of going back to the style of speech from chapters 12 through 24 with all the maxims. I could have continued the maxims here. It's effectively the same thing. He's taking a thing that they are saying. He's saying, like, I've heard you saying this. Here's what's actually the truth. Like how people in society say, follow your heart, right? That's not good advice, right? Don't follow your heart unless your heart follows Jesus, right? The heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Now, the new heart, follow the new heart, but that's not you following your own heart. That's you following God, right?
Right.
So that's just kind of what he's doing here. Again, I say to the wicked, wait, where did I leave off? No, I was in the wrong verse. When the righteous turns from his righteousness and does injustice, he shall die for it. But when the wicked turns from his wickedness and does what is just and right, he shall live by his. Yet you say, the way of the Lord is not just. O house of Israel, I'm going to judge each of you according to his ways. So they're like, we're rotting away because of sin. And the truth that Ezekiel says is, yeah, that's true, but you can be redeemed. And then they say God's way is not just, and the truth is, yes, it is. That's my paraphrase of Ezekiel 33:17 through 20. Yes, it is. God's way is not just. Some Gen Z kid, cap. One theologian described the word as unscrupulous. They're saying God is unscrupulous. He is not abiding by moral principles, which is a ludicrous thing to say. In the 12th year of our exile, in the 10th month, on the 5th day of the month, verse 21, a fugitive came from Jerusalem to me and said, the city has been struck down. This is big. This is notable. 586 BC. Who knows how long it took the guy to get there, but that's when the city was struck down. That's when the book of Lamentations was written. It's kind of the center bottom point of this book, is not the specific moment, but the times it refers to this moment.
This was the Babylonians.
That's right. That's right. And this some dude, probably thirsty and clothes are ripped, and he just saw his city burn down, and he comes to the exile and tells the people there, now the hand of the Lord had been upon me the evening before the fugitive came. This is a thing that people that have prophetic giftings can sense. People that have a gift of discerning of spirits, they can sense things are going on when the Lord is on them for some sort of word or reason. He'd opened my mouth by the time the man came to me in the morning, so my mouth was open and I was no longer mute. So Ezekiel was called by God to not speak unless God gave him a word until the city fell. So all of it, I mean, that was like 20 chapters ago. And so now he's like, it's over. Now he's like, now I can talk about the Suns game again. Yeah. Instead of just think about it. It literally says the city has been smitten. That's what it says at the end of verse 21, literally. This is like their home city. So this is a pretty big deal. It's a big part of the Old Testament. This is the anti-equivalent of the people of Israel entering Israel, is seeing Jerusalem sacked and destroyed. And
it's a crazy photograph.
It's such a cool photo.
And this is This is the central point of the book. This is the glorious city destroyed. So the glory of the Lord has left, and now God is just letting his city be destroyed. So many amazing works of art. This next one is wild. Oh, man. And we see this story in 2 Kings chapter 25. If you'd like to take notes like that, I think it's helpful to put those in here in your Bible. In the ninth year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon advanced against Jerusalem with his entire army. They laid siege to the city and built a siege wall around it. The city was under siege until King Zedekiah's 11th year. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that the people of the land had no food. This city is the cauldron, and we are the meat, right? These are the prophetic words that are ringing true. Yeah. Then the city was broken into, and all the warriors fled by night. 2 Kings 25:9 says, burning the Lord's temple, the king's palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. This is very upsetting. But the thing that's more upsetting is that God already left. The temple isn't the temple unless God lives there. Just like your house isn't your home unless your family lives there. So it'd be very sad to see your home burn down. But it'd be a lot worse if your family was gone first. That's way, way, way worse.
Yeah.
This is such an important part of understanding the Old Testament. Is a lot of like the kind of random passages in Leviticus and Deuteronomy are what is happening when this happens. And all of the prophets, they're in the context of before or after the exile. They're in the context of around the exile. Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, they're all the return after the exile narratives and prophets. And then other ones are prophesying around it because of the covenant with Moses. Obey and be blessed, disobey and be cursed. They disobeyed. This is one of the curses. Mm-hmm. This is all happening. I try to help people understand, like if you understand the Mosaic covenant in Deuteronomy, you can understand a lot of what is happening in the Old Testament and why it's happening. Because a lot of stuff in there is just happening at another time. Like in Deuteronomy, it says, God says, if you disobey me, I will hide. And in the book of Esther, God doesn't appear in the entire book. God is literally hidden. And there's even a word in there that sounds like the word for hidden. It's just part of it. It's like part of what is going on in the whole Old Testament, if that makes sense. And so this is kind of like one of the points where it peaks over the surface and you're like, wow, like this, God really meant what he said, right? I should have listened to Moses. Where's Joshua? Let's get him back in the mix. He was a good dude, you know. Even Samson had a good ending. Let's get him back. Look, where's Deborah? Let's get her back in the mix. The word of the Lord, verse 23, came to me. Logan, could you read 24 through 26?
It said, Son of man, the people living in those ruins in the land of Israel are saying, Abraham was only one man, yet he possessed the land, but we are many. Surely the land has been given to us as our possession. Therefore say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Since you eat meat with the blood still in it, and you look to your idols and shed blood, would you then possess the land? You rely on your sword, you do detestable things, and each of you defiles his neighbor's wife. Should you then possess the land?
I think it's pretty obvious what he's saying there, right? Yeah. This is the word about exile, and this is literally a fulfillment of things that Moses was saying in Deuteronomy. And their point, when it says the people, the inhabitants of these waste places keep saying, and then it says the Abraham quote there, they are twisting a prophecy from Isaiah, either intentionally or unintentionally, I'm not sure. But it says, look to Abraham your father, and to Sarah who gave you birth. When I called him, he was but one. I blessed him and made him many. The Lord will surely comfort Zion, and he will look with compassion on all her ruins. He will make her deserts like Eden, her wastelands like the garden of the Lord. Verse 27 says, say this to them, thus says the Lord God. Carly, would you read there through verse 29?
Yep. As surely as I live, those who are in the ruins will fall by the sword. Those in the open field I have given to wild animals to be devoured, and those in the strongholds and caves will die by plague. I will make the land a desolate waste, and its proud strength will come to an end. The mountains of Israel will become desolate with no one passing through. They will know that I am the Lord when I make the land a desolate waste because of all the detestable acts they have committed.
Yes, and keep in mind when it says abominations, her translation says detestable acts. When it says abominations in verse 29, it's talking about child sacrifice and pagan sex cults that are out in the open. Specifically in these verses that she just read, there are the 3 curses referenced that are mentioned in Leviticus chapter 26 for the breaking of the covenant. They're all mentioned there. It says in Leviticus 26, the sword, wild animals, and the plague. These are all things that will come upon you. And there you have them right there. As for you, son of man, verse 30, your people who walk together about you by the walls and at the doors of your houses, say to one another, each to his brother, come and hear what the word is that comes from the Lord. So this is kind of an interesting insight into the way people viewed him, or at least were viewing him at this moment. It's not just like a perceived crazy person standing at the street corner. People recognized that he was a prophet, and they were like, let's go hear, what God is saying. Ian Dugwood says the news of Jerusalem's fall appears to have given Ezekiel a certain popularity and topicality. He is now the subject of the conversation in the cities and doorways from 3330. To use a contemporary analogy, he's the toast of the talk shows. But the interest is superficial. People listen to his words, but they don't put them into practice, regarding him as an intriguing phenomenon rather than a life-changing reality. His fame is like that of a pop star whose declarations on spiritual matters may arouse curiosity, but are scarcely accorded authoritative status. That's the difficulty of a person who has a prophetic gifting. They're just stuck in this universe. People are kind of interested in them because they're weird and they say a lot of things, but it's not really making a difference, and so it's like a frustrating experience. Verse 31, and they come to you as people come. They sit before you as my people. They hear what you say, but they won't do it. For with lustful talk in their mouths they act, and their heart is set on their gain. And behold, you are to them like one who sings lustful songs with a beautiful voice and plays well on an instrument. For they hear what you say, but they won't do it. Lustful Songs with a Beautiful Voice, the new album by The
Yours
Weeknd.
says lustful. Mine says love songs,
Mine says passionate.
which feels different than lustful.
Let's look up the Hebrew word. Love songs is very different. It just doesn't mean the same
Yeah,
thing.
mine says love songs too.
Yeah.
What version do you guys have?
NIV.
I have the NIV.
I have
Niv?
that Christian Standard Bible.
You seem like a
Ooh.
CSB person, and that's a compliment. You seem like an NIV person. That's not a compliment. And you seem
A message.
like a person who has like NKJV and the message.
Yes. Balance myself out.
I just seem like a person who tries to follow along with whatever the pastor preaching is in. That's why my app was probably an NIV previously.
Open up your Bible, and if it's not a King James version, it's not the Bible.
I used to be New King James. I was showing my kids my Bible from when I was like in my early 20s, and it's a big old New King James study Bible.
I always like when people are like, if it's not the King James, it's not the Bible. And I'm like, so then what do people do who don't speak English? What did people do from the year 0 to the year 1611?
Yeah.
I've
were
never gotten an
Christians.
answer back.
They were lost.
Like, this is the only word of God. You're
It's
like,
good enough
okay.
for John the Baptist. It's good enough for me. I had somebody say that to me one time at a Christian bookstore. Legit. Dead serious as a heart attack.
I can't believe you didn't get fired for responding.
I thought they made a good point at the time. I was like a 16-year-old kid selling him a Bible. I was like, oh, that's valid.
This guy translates it sensual, agavim.
Strong's H, 5690. Agavim.
Agavim.
That sounds like a crazy DJ drop.
King James uses the word twice, or it's used in the Hebrew twice, and it means love or lovely, or not what it means. That's the way the King James translates it. Strong's definition is love concretely, much love, very lovely. This outline of biblical usage says sensual love. Brown Driver Briggs lexicon, sensual love. Huh. The Gesenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon says pleasures, delights. Yeah. So effectively they're saying, yeah, it means love, but colloquially it means
Well,
and it
in-
comes from a root. It comes from a root word that means lust.
And in context, he's saying, they sing songs. Even in the next verse, they sing songs and play instruments well. These, love songs, these nice songs, but their actions, their words aren't put into practice.
And it comes from the Hebrew word that it comes from is used. Wow. Oh, this is interesting. The Hebrew word that it comes from is used about 12 times. 10 of the times are in Ezekiel 23. So that'll tell you,
Yeah.
because that's the chapter where they're talking about lust the entire time.
Is
I
any
see.
one of those in Isaiah chapter 1?
No.
Because this whole passage feels like Isaiah 1, where it's like your incense and your offerings, they smell terrible to me. Your songs, I can't stand to hear them.
Oh my gosh, that's a terrifying chapter.
Cease to do evil, learn to do justice, plead for the fatherless and the widow.
When this comes, verse 33, and come it will, then they will know that a prophet has been among them.
That's
And it definitely will.
yeah, that's a scary verse.
Yeah, that is.
I love that one.
When it all comes true, and it will.
And
They're
That's a
gonna
good
know.
Definitely
producer
will.
tag.
They ignored and ignored and ignored. Now they're kind of paying attention. And God's like, yeah, they're going to listen, but they're thinking lustfully, they're talking lustfully, they're writing lustful songs, and it's just not going to be a thing.
Yeah, he's setting up the "see, I told you so."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think is, just like a general good word for people to think about on the idea of doing what you know is right, regardless of what other people are doing, right? It's like a very common, like, youth groupy style message, but it's a good message. It's a
Right.
good message to do and obey the Lord and lean into spirituality regardless of what other people are around you are doing. Does anybody else have any thoughts on chap 33?
I love the imagery of the watchman,
Yeah, that's cool.
the person that sees the thing coming, but then also has a dual job of not just observing, but also alerting and reporting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great, it's a great way of thinking about just all prophets. You know?
Totally. And they don't have to put upon themselves the burden of making people agree,
Right.
Because that's not a burden for
Yeah.
them. That's more of a burden for teachers, is to make people understand.
Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say it reminds me of the role of a parent, like
Oh.
the watchman.
Yeah.
It's my job to see what's coming, warn you about it, but then it's on you to listen and to change your way or keep going or whatever. But
You can sleep through the shofar if you want.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I'm warning you.
Yeah.
I hear it. I see it.
It's a different approach from like Jonah too, who like goes back and forth and pleads with God and just seems a lot more involved. Like not just as he's
Yeah.
negotiating and debating and throwing
Totally.
a fit and everything else. He's a terrible watchman.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
God's just like, I just need you to see this, blow the shofar, like, which is what Ezekiel's been doing. Every single thing God's asked him to do, he's been doing it. And I just keep comparing and contrasting that to like Jonah, which is just sort of almost like a comic book,
Yeah.
the way that
totally.
it reads, because of how he just engages with the
Whiny.
Lord. Yeah.
Totally. And that's why ultimately, like, I think Jesus chooses to call himself Son of Man, because the thing he keeps saying is, I'm just doing the things the Father has asked me to do. Right.
Right.
That's interesting that you brought that out. Yeah. Jonah was a pretty trash prophet, honestly.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he's viewed as like good. Because of the whale incident, it's like a classic like children's thing.
Yeah.
But he's a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a disaster.
Even at the end, he doesn't even listen.
No.
The book just ends.
He's whining.
The way that
all
book
the way.
ends is a trip. Like if you
It's
read it, it goes
amazing.
to this whole thing, and God's like, yeah, I'll save them. Like there's a bunch of great people there, plus a ton of livestock. End of the chapter.
End of the book.
God's like walk off is like, I'm not going to destroy Nineveh because of the cows.
Yeah.
Totally, and I
They
think
like
that
burgers.
well, I think the implication is like, why didn't Jonah respond with like, "That's great,"
Yeah.
right? I think that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Oh.
It's like an open-ended ending because it's
Yeah.
like it should have been different.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in that entire story listens to God.
Yep.
Right. The guys on the ship,
Yep.
the dice, the whale.
Yeah.
All of the people of Nineveh, the
Yep.
king of Nineveh, the worm, the plant, everyone
my
listens to
gosh.
God except for Jonah.
Wow,
That is
what a
so
strong
true.
image. I've never thought of it like
There's
that.
a lot of interesting like scholarly thoughts about that book as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like it might not be like an actual story, and more of like a
Allegory.
an
Yeah.
allegorical like thing, almost like a play,
Yeah.
handed down.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Fascinating.
I don't. The reason I don't see it like that is because Jesus said, "As Jonah was in the whale 3 days and 3 nights, so the Son of Man will be in the earth." So I know that other people don't view that as a contradiction to that viewpoint, but from me, I would say it seems like Jesus is saying this is a real person where a real thing happened.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Or just like a story that they would all be familiar with.
Sure.
Much like that. I'm gonna be like that.
I'm gonna be.
And doesn't Tyre isn't in the book of Jonah as well? Isn't that where
he's supposed to go
deposited
to,
by the whale?
Yeah, he's supposed to go. It's like something like that. But he's supposed to go to Nineveh, obviously, and then he goes to,
Tarshish?
Tarshish,
Tarshish?
which is in Spain.
Opposite.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Like,
He's like, bro.
I
Yeah.
vaguely remember. I have to look this up, and somebody's gonna fact check me. Maybe you can fact check me in real time. But I remember doing a geography study of the events of the book of Jonah.
Yeah.
And coming to the conclusion like this whale was hauling booty to get to where all these different places, and B, for Jonah to make it from where he was supposedly deposited by the whale to Nineveh, the whale had to either like launch him 300 miles out of his mouth, or Jonah had to be like riding in a Camaro
Does the Bible
to
say
get there in time nonstop.
Does the Bible say whale or does it say sea monster? Or is it very literal?
I think it says
fish.
crocodile.
Right.
It says fish.
It's the crocodile of
fish.
the Nile. It's a
Interesting.
behemoth.
Yeah. Totally.
It is a behemoth. Yeah, it says great. The Lord appointed a great fish.
Isn't that also an adventure? Oh no, that's a VeggieTale.
Oh,
reference.
fish.
For the Nick
bass.
for the Nick version, we could say that the Lord mythologically appointed a mythological fish
A mythological beast.
to
Yeah.
mythologically swallow up Jonah.
Can you imagine if somebody made a modern day adaptation of Jonah though? That'd be such a the right director would make a great movie about it.
It'd be great. And then they would add like a bunch of rock monsters in, like they did in the.
Oh, yes. Rock monster. hmm Well, and of course.
in the Noah movie.
Yes, in the VeggieTales
Like
movie.
Vin Diesel is on the boat and they're trying to throw him over. He's like, "Wait, family is everything. We're not throwing him out." And
Geppetto
they
lived in a
overrule-
whale.
Totally. And then like on the boat that Jonah is on is just Johnny Depp as that pirate for no reason.
Back as that pirate.
He's just doing all the
He's
bits.
Captain
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Now I'm never going to be able to read
He's
that
Jack Sparrow.
again
He's like,
without thinking about
I
Jack
don't know, good
Sparrow.
Ellen, throw him in the water. Rum.
Do you
More
want-
rum for the rest of us.
Do you want to close this up, Nick?
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us and tuning in as we get closer and closer to the upside of the book of Ezekiel. As always, if you haven't yet and you want to, comment, or if you don't want to, comment anyways because we asked and you like us. We're family now. So thanks for joining. We'll see you next week.
Peace.